mean, if you're not more knowledgeable and smarter than you were when you left your home country, then you better ask for your money back. to be was to stop being, you know, concerned about what people thought about me, what my parents thought about me, what my siblings thought about me, what my friends thought about me. I really just wanted to be less afraid. Just don't be scared to make decisions, and don't be so risk averse that you move and you freeze and you don't do anything. So that's one thing that changed very drastically in my life. I became less afraid, more expressive, and not afraid of what people thought if I expressed myself, and also just really more risky in terms of making decisions. And I want to put it in from a finance or career wise point of view. I became a little less risk averse. Some of you know what I'm talking about, right? And then the second part is I became more knowledgeable, and dare I say smarter, which is a no-brainer, because I was coming to school. If you're not more knowledgeable and smarter than you were when you left your home country, then you better ask for your money back. But yes, I became more knowledgeable, I became smarter, more intelligent, and that's really what my ultimate goal was. I wanted to be more exposed, because I'm of the opinion that you don't just learn from the four corners of a school or the pages of a book. You learn from listening to people. You learn from exposing yourself to other cultures, other ways of thinking. And when I was a teenager, I used to read a lot of books, but I also started watching movies where I would just escape into that reality. But traveling to a whole new country and exposing myself to a whole set of people, culture, just really gave me that exposure that I couldn't get in books and I couldn't get in movies. So I became smarter, not just by going to school or going back to school, but also by interacting with people. I was open to interacting with people all the time, and I would always be open to interacting with people, because I know how much I could. Do you know how many walking unwritten books are on these streets? That's why one of the pages that I love on Instagram is Humans of New York, because just really listening to people's experiences, you're learning a ton. So that's something that I know changed my life drastically, because when I was back home, I was so closed in, because I was thinking everybody is they're all part of my culture. We all think alike, even though we have like over 200 ethnic groups in the country. But we all looked the same relatively. We all spoke the same language almost, so it just felt like I was taking it for granted I was taking for granted the fact that you can literally learn from people, the person sitting next to you. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't think that I'm saying that you have to travel out of your, where you currently are to be able to learn from people around you. No. But in my experience, that's what traveling did for me. One of the things it did for me. But I would urge you, wherever you are right now, to also learn from the people around you. Just learn, just listen, observe, ask questions, and that's something I will be forever grateful for, that I was privileged to have the opportunity to experience when I studied here, when I traveled and studied here. Third is I became more empathetic and accommodating of other people and other cultures. I actually love this one the most. So before I moved and started studying here, I was very closed off. I was judgmental, and that's okay if you're in that phase. That's okay. I feel like people are in different phases of their lives, and it's okay to take the lessons in that phase. I don't believe that it's God's intention for us to rush through phases. Stay there, learn, and then move on. It's detrimental if you now stay in that phase and you're causing havoc to not just yourself but those around you. So when I was back, before I moved down here to study, I was very conservative, very in my own head, thinking that my way of thinking was the best way of thinking, my definition of things was the best way to define things. I wasn't as accommodating of how other people thought. I thought that it was just one way to do things, but honestly, that's not how it is. There's a lot of the different ways that different cultures, different ways that people live, the different nuances to different people's cultures. Now, the core of who I am never changes. I am a Christian by choice, and I'm a Christian and I love it, and that the tenets of my Christianity doesn't change. But the way that I see people, the way that I love people, there's no criteria now to it. You don't have to be perfect for me to love you, for me to accept you. You don't have to do things exactly the way that I do things for me to accept you. I love you. And that was, I feel like that's a lesson that God taught me, and I'm so appreciative of that when I moved here. So that's a lesson that I learned. And also you know, just really understanding that your culture, me as a Nigerian, is just one amongst the hundreds of countries and hundreds of cultures that are represented in the city where I live. So understanding that the way I do things is not necessarily how others would do, or the way that I speak, or the way that I understand or digest information is not the same way other people would. I'll give an example. I was I was in church one time, and I was making a joke with someone who was also within my team, and I said, you know how as Nigerians, and if you're not Nigerian you won't get this, but you know how as Nigerians we say things like, if you're not careful now I'll take you, you know, when you, for context, say you go to somebody else's comfort zone, or somebody else's local vicinity, or somebody else's hometown, and they're speaking their local dialect, and they're saying you don't understand the language, and they're saying if you're not careful I can sell you here and give you change, you know, and we laugh over it. For context, cracking that kind of joke here when it's predominantly white, and you're saying, oh, you might not understand the language and I can sell or you're Egyptian or wherever it is, you will find your community here. I promise you that. And you would grow. It could get lonely sometimes, but eventually it would pass. I feel like sometime later I would have a conversation with somebody else who came as PR but not a student, and just share their experience and how moving here, how that has changed their lives. Maybe that would also help give you context in case you're coming through a different path that I came. But yes, that is the top 5 ways that my life incredibly changed when I moved here and I studied here. And I'm curious to know how yours has changed if you have already moved here, so drop it in the comment section. And before I sign out, if you are not following us, following me and our page on social media, so